important because that action word is really going to guide how the rest of your writing is going to go. So I'll have a little bit more examples as we go along. And finish, which is finish your thought, is what was that big idea? So you really cannot complete your idea until you have read that whole article or that whole book. Why? Because you need to be able to answer what was that big idea, what is that big concept, and what is that main idea. So one of those questions should be answered when you finish your thought. And please stop me whenever you guys have any questions. So when you identify the text, like we mentioned, you can mention the title, the book, the article you used, what type of text, and the author. Now, the verbit. This is, if you want to start with little steps, it's what we call TED, which are those 3 simple verbs for our kiddos, which is tell, explains, or describes. But to raise that vocabulary and raise really the type of rigor and the type of writing we want for our students, these are different types of verbs that can guide us through the rest of our writing. So adds, asks, clarifies, which are those kinds of verbs that we want our students to be able to justify through their writing. So this is just a list of them. You can always add, but it's a good resource for them to have as they're writing their IVF. So this is an example of it. Finish your thought. Again, what is that big idea? And I always tell my kids, what does the author want you to remember at the end of this text? How do you want to wrap that up? What was that big concept? So one of the examples is Dogzilla, which is a fiction story. So you don't really need like a graphic organizer. Students can create their own. They can fold a paper into 3 columns, IVF, and they do it on their own. And so it's a book. The title is Dogzilla, and who's the author? So verb, you choose one. And so you always like to list a couple of them, just so that you have a choice. These are some that I might use. And what was it mainly about? It was about a peaceful town named Mesopolis. That's what it was basically about. So you write it into 3 components, and then you put it all together. So it becomes your topic sentence. So the book Dogzilla by David Polk tells about a peaceful town named Mesopolis. So there's your sentence. So what do you expect your kiddos to write after that? All the supporting details or events that happened in the story. So that's the purpose of an IVF. And you can use it, this is a fiction example. And here's a nonfiction. And especially with us right now doing a lot of nonfiction text. Chapter 5 titled Electronics. So we're really calling out that source that we're using. In the science book explains how a simple telegraph works. So again, it's kind of broken down and it guides because you're using explains. So your writing is going to explain what that says. So again, that verb is going to guide your writing. So that's why that verb really plays a big role within your IVF. And one of the things we know that we want to take it across in math as well, when you break it down, you identify that learning target. So when you really think about it, it's our kiddos are answering that essential question with their IVF. It's like, what are we learning about? This is what we're learning. So let me identify it. Again, that verb, how, I'm justifying, I'm clarifying, what are we doing? And you finish the thought. Or steps, especially in math. If you want them to review or summarize how to get to a problem, you go through steps. And the summary outline, those are just like those bullets of what has taken place. What are those steps that you have taken? They could be, if you want to tweak it to what are the processes that you have gone through. And then always that choice of diagram so you can visualize it. And then just your reflection again as to what was most important, what question do you still have. It's just those that you're not done. You always keep thinking. So a completed version of it would be something like this. Finding the area of composite figures, that's what I'm learning about. How can be described? How? In 3 steps. So that's your IVF. So now, what is that going to look like? These are the 3 steps that I need to take. So it's really chunking it, and it's a process for our students to take in creating that topic sentence. Are there any wonderings, questions that you guys have at this time? I'm just standing here talking.
How'd you get so smart, Miss Ecuador?
I learned from you.
This actually looks like a small mini UBD for like the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Just because of like I know one of the main factors of UBD is like to look at the power verbs, like what he's supposed to be doing. So it's almost like training them the same way. So
It's just making that connection that, you know,
Yeah.
what we're doing is what you're transferring in your writing.
yeah.
I think that's one of the big things with the IVF. And really, it's a nice way to summarize. So the purpose of it, it's a summary sentence, which turns into your topic sentence because then everything kind of follows it. I think that's one of the important things is that when I taught 4th grade, I would always ask my students, after you're finished reading, write an IVF right away. That was my quick check. Did you understand what you read? So it's something that, it's not going to take them that long, but the big thing is they can't create the IVF without really reading and understanding what they read. And that's how you will really understand that they get it. Because that finishing part, it's that wrapping it all up. So as a teacher, we need to figure out, they can call out a verb, but are they able to justify it and wrap it all up? So this is